Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 185 of the Falcoholic Live. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, joined by some terrific guests. First of all, we have with us Aaron Freeman. He is the host of the Locked On Falcons podcast, also a contributor at thefalcoholic.com. Terrific website if you haven't seen it. Aaron, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me back on. I know we're doing a mock draft later tonight, and I will do my best to manipulate the rest of you, just like Eric Robinson would normally do, to find a way to get Wan'Dale Robinson on the draft board. And so we'll see if I can channel my inner Eric Robinson on tonight's episode.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I've accepted the gospel of Drake London, wide receiver 1, so you don't have to argue too much about that one tonight. But
okay.
We'll have to see because I don't know if either one of us is going to be down for a wide receiver at 8. So, we may have to do a trade, which will be on the table in said mock draft that we'll be getting to in just a little bit, folks. Before we move to that, I want to welcome also Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield at Evan Birchfield. Evan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, Kevin. Thanks for having me on to talk about the draft.
Yes, absolutely. I know there was some sort of dog-related crisis going on in your neighborhood, so we appreciate you taking time away
I
from.
rushed here. Yeah.
Yes, from saving lives to come on and deliver football takes on this podcast. That real priorities. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, we will be having, I believe, Dave Choate, the Falcoholic himself, joining us when he is available. I know he is a busy man. Out here delivering hot takes at all hours of the night. So when he's ready, I know he will hop in and we will get to his takes, give him a proper intro when he's available. But let's go ahead and kick things off with the free agent signing of the week. It seems like they've been really good about this. They've been sort of slow drip feeding us these free agent signings. So we always have like one or two to talk about every show. But this week, the signing is maybe one that I think folks were sort of expecting to see earlier in the offseason. And that is tight end Anthony Firkser, most recently, of course, of the Titans, former undrafted free agent, ended up having a pretty good career, especially for an undrafted free agent, sticking with the Titans for several years, having a very good season with Arthur Smith. The Titans actually sort of committed to Firkser this last year as like their tight end 1, and it didn't go super well. That whole offense seemed to struggle a little bit. So maybe it's not Firkser's fault, but Firkser gets to reunite with Arthur Smith and a familiar face in Marcus Mariota. And it's a pretty good signing. We haven't seen the financials yet, but, I think certainly it does give the Falcons another veteran presence in the tight end room. Aaron, I'll go to you first because I believe Evan has stepped out momentarily, perhaps to deal with that aforementioned dog situation. But, we don't want, we'll see. We'll see if we hear from Evan again. That sounded pretty dicey over there. But, what do you think about the Firkser signing? Were you surprised it took this long?
Actually, I was a little surprised that they actually went and got him, just because what we saw from Arthur Smith last year was not throwing the ball to his pass catching number 2 tight end in Hayden Hurst and asking him to block a lot more. And Firkser being primarily a pass catcher and not really much of a blocker, I sort of question, like, do they kind of want more of a blocker in that role? Because, throughout most of last season, we kind of saw Lee Smith get a little bit more run as sort of that number 2 tight end than Hayden Hurst did. So I was a little surprised that they did get Firkser eventually, even though, I think a lot of people have been pointing to that eventuality just because of the familiarity. I thought maybe we would see them go after maybe one of the other Titans tight ends that are a little bit more known for their blocking ability, like Michael Pruitt or Jeff Swaim or something like that. So I was a little surprised that they did get Firkser, although again, if you probably put the odds on that, at the beginning of the offseason, they probably would have been pretty favorable. So it was a mildly surprising to me I guess, given the timing of it. But as you mentioned, they're kind of been patient with some of these signings. So I guess it makes total sense. I feel like even though Hayden Hurst wasn't really a significant part of the passing attack last year, I do feel like Firkser, given what he did as that number 2 tight end in Tennessee behind guys like Jonnu Smith and Delaney Walker, should be much more productive and much more bigger part of the Falcons passing attack. And I think right now, if you're looking at the Falcons' weapons right now, it probably is Kyle Pitts 1, Cordero Patterson 2, and potentially Anthony Firkser number 3 in terms of the guys that may wind up getting, a lot more of the targets so far this season. We'll see what shakes out with the wide receiver group and what shakes out in the draft. But certainly I think Firkser can contribute a lot more than what we saw from Hayden Hurst last year.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst was sort of an interesting case. I think we all thought that would be a more productive part of the offense, and I don't know if he just didn't jive with Arthur Smith or if the blocking wasn't even passable enough really to get him out there, or what was going on with that. But we definitely didn't see Hayden Hurst nearly as much as we thought. But let me introduce here, before we get too far in the weeds with this Firkser signing, joining us now, Dave Choate at the Falcoholic himself. Dave, appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy man. How are you doing tonight?
Technical difficulties are my passion, so I'm 10 minutes late, but otherwise
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes, this reminds me of something I said in the Falcoholic group chat, which was that the best part of getting in on all these press conferences for the Falcons recently is that I get to be privy to the technical Zoom difficulties that happen. At least one funny one happens in every single press conference, and I have to say that is one of the highlights of my day now. I think we get at least one open mic D-Led moment per press conference, and for those of you that know D-Led, it's always glorious. It's always pretty great. So understand that game for sure, and also would like your take on the Anthony Firkser signing, if you have one, Dave.
It's a sensible signing. It's one of those things where I thought for sure that Firkser was going to be one of the early signings of the offseason because, the Falcons clearly needed another pass catching tight end. He's got the Arthur Smith ties. It just felt like a really logical signing. So, especially on what's likely to be yet another affordable 1-year deal, to bring somebody like him in and give yourself a fighting chance at having 2 tight ends that can catch the ball, maybe 3 if you're a huge Parker Hesse fan. I think it's a good little signing.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And Firkser has really good hands, and he's been pretty athletic too. The production hasn't necessarily popped off the tape, and in his sort of opportunity to be the tight end 1 in Tennessee last year without Arthur Smith, it wasn't what the Titans were hoping, and he ended up walking this year, and Firkser's not exactly a tremendous blocker either. So, you think the signing is sort of reminds me of some of the other signings this offseason, which was it's a good value addition, a good reliable veteran. A lot of these guys seem to have experience with the coaching staff, and it sort of makes it less of a pressing need in the draft. I think I was always sort of the mind that tight end 2 was something that was a big need, and I know a lot of fans sort of disagree with that because it's like, oh, you got Kyle Pitts, why are you spending picks on tight ends? Well, because it's a 2 tight end offense, they want a second tight end, and I don't think that's off the table, but it does sort of like the Rashaan Evans signing and the Jermaine Ifedi signing and the Lorenzo Carter signing makes it so it's less pressing, where it's like you don't necessarily need 2 edges to have 2 starting edges now. You don't need to get a linebacker early because you've got Evans and Deion Jones and Michael Walker now. You don't necessarily need to take a tackle early because you have Jermaine Ifedi, Caleb McGarry, and Elijah Wilkinson who can maybe be a swing tackle. And the same is true for Firkser, where now you've got Kyle Pitts and Firkser as your tight end too. That's fine. You're not necessarily like, we have to get another tight end in here. It seems like they like Parker Hesse too, and they brought in a ton of undrafted and futures sort of tight ends. So I think it's in that same mold of like, we don't want to be boxed in to where we feel like we have to take a player at a particular position. And they talk a lot about BPA, and I think as much as fans may disagree with who they have as the BPA in these particular places, I think that they are going to try to follow that route. And we may try to take that route as well with our mock draft coming up here soon, but it is an interesting strategy, and I think it's been pretty consistent this offseason. And they also haven't broken the bank or messed with 2023's cap basically at all, except in a positive light, moving on from some of these deals. So it's all been pretty consistent, since the Deshaun Watson thing blew up in their face. Everything has been pretty consistent this offseason with this is the first step in a rebuild, and we're not moving a lot of money around. So, I guess in that way it's a little bit more heartening that it seems like there's at least some sort of a plan. So I guess I'm happy with that. But I would ask Evan if he's back, but I don't know that he is.
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, he's back. Yeah, Evan, what do you think about the signing? You got it.
I, for me, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, okay. For me, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like I think he's a high end tight end, like backup. Um, and if they still add to the tight end position, I mean, I like what we've seen from Parker Hesse. If they still add somebody in the draft, it's not a big deal, but I mean, he's a pretty solid tight end too, in my opinion. So, I mean, I liked it. It wasn't like a move that is overly exciting, but I thought it was a good move, and it's not going to cost them a whole lot, so why not?
Yeah, I agree. It's low cost move, low risk, and it gives a familiar target for Marcus Mariota, which is nice. And it's a guy that should allow them to do more of these two tight end sets that Arthur Smith seems to like. Obviously, we didn't necessarily see them throw to that second tight end. It was more of a blocker in Lee Smith last year, but I think that's ultimately what they want. So, we'll see how well that works. But yeah, any final takes on Firkser, or should we go ahead and move towards the draft section of tonight's show, guys? Guys, you satisfied with Firkser? We probably don't need to dedicate more than like 15 minutes to Firkser. No offense to Firkser, of course, but
2 hours of Firkser.
That's for June. We do 2 hours on each free agent signing, so that's for June, folks.
I'm busy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm out. Yeah. Well, we can go ahead and start to maneuver towards our live mock draft, which I know you guys are excited about. We've enjoyed doing them. We're going to be doing them again tonight. Before we get that started, quick reminder to please, as always, like and subscribe if you guys haven't done so already. Both of those metrics really help us out. If you haven't checked it out, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. All that money goes to support the show, and all of its various expenses, and we really appreciate everyone who's been contributing to that. It's been a big help for me personally, and it's really helped the show grow. Take some of that off my plate, so really appreciate that, guys. If you're interested, there's some exclusive content on there. Currently, the only way, apparently, to get the podcast version of the show is on Patreon. That is temporary, I promise. We will have the episodes up on the feeds again soon. But, if you absolutely have to have them today, that is one option. So, I'm just putting that out there, but it's not on purpose, I promise. But yeah, today's live mock draft going to be all 7 rounds. We're going to do trades, at least consider them. We're not going to say we have to make a trade at 8, but, we're probably going to make a trade at 8. And we'll entertain offers. We're not going to get too wild with it. We're going to try to, of course, make it realistic. I did want to ask you guys, do you want to do a draft where it's sort of what we would do, or do we want to try to predict what we think the team would do with this mock? Because it could go in 2 very different directions based on that sort of idea.
Probably what the team would do, just because our mock will be completely wrong if we probably do what we want.
It's probably going to be completely wrong either way. But
what did you do last time?
Yeah.
I think
True.
we sort of did.
Do we have any idea what they're going to do this year? Like that's.
I think we did what we did. We won it last time.
Yeah, last time we did what we would do. So I think we could do predictive, and then we could do trades too. Because I think in that way, I think if they do get an offer, and we could sort of force them to get an offer, since we control the simulator. But I think if they did get a trade down offer of sufficient quality, that would probably be near the top of their list in terms of options. But we'll have to see who's on the board. Or we could just take Desmond Ridder at 8 and just really get this thing going properly. But is that? Does anybody here actually think that they're going to take Desmond Ridder at 8? I've been tweeting that out to stoke the flames, but I don't actually think that's going to happen. But
I hope not.
As much as I like Desmond Ridder, he's QB 2, but 8 is extremely rich. But I guess I was reading about the betting markets. He's getting like closer and closer to the top of the QB like betting market in terms of first quarterback take and second quarterback take and that sort of thing. So the hype has definitely started to build. And I don't know how meaningful that is. These late moves in the draft always seem to be sort of a little bit weird, but we'll see.
There's always those kind of weird curveballs too that like I'm not making the case for it, but you see like those kind of weird who was it the Raiders randomly took that like shocked everybody? Something Farrell?
Yeah, Cleveland Farrell, yeah, at like 4.
Wasn't that the guy that was like really high, and everybody's like, whoa. I don't want the Falcons to do that and be that kind of team, but like, I mean, I don't think if they're projected to go in round 1 or 2, like, I don't think anything's crazy considering what we've seen, but that would be, I think, too high.
Yeah, I agree. I as much as I like Ritter, and I do think that he does have a better chance than a lot of fans think of being one of the better quarterbacks in this class. I think he obviously doesn't have the ceiling of Willis, but I think he has a good chance of being that type of player in terms of being a potential franchise quarterback. I still don't know that taking him at 8 is the right move for this team. It seems a little desperate, but again, it's going to be up to them. So can't really comment too much on that, but we're probably not going to make that move. So if you guys were wondering if we were going to do that, I don't think we have to worry too much. But let's switch over to the draft view here. Looks like everything is displaying properly. That's good news. All right, yeah, guys. So as before, we're going to use the Draft Network's mock draft machine, which is my personal favorite. For those of you that don't know, the Draft Network stacks their board based on their, I think it's 8 or 10 full-time scouts. So it's a composite board of 8 different scouts rankings. Why am I off center now? That's weird. Okay. Yeah, so it's a composite board of a lot of different scouts rankings, and obviously there's no board that's truly going to be reflecting every team's board. It's just kind of a best guess. I think their trades offered are generally good. A lot of times these trades get wonky if you mess with it too much, but I think it's pretty good. I like the interface. It fits really well with the show. It tucks in really, really perfectly actually. So I think it's a quality program, and I like their sort of variety pack of scouts that all have different opinions about these guys. It's really interesting to read about all these different prospects. But we're going to kick things off. We'll let the simulator play out, assuming you guys don't want to attempt any sort of trade up. Because if you want to attempt to trade up, I'll have to pause it, at a certain pick if we want to try to trade up. But I think we're all pretty good at just waiting until 8, right?
I really hope we're not trading up from 8 in real life. So yeah, let's put that wish out into the universe. Let's not move up.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be the contrarian, and I'm pining for a trade up for Ike Ekwonu, but I know it's not going to happen.
I do like Ike Ekwonu. If they're gonna, I don't know. That is an interesting topic. If they were gonna trade up, who would they trade it for? And it's probably they're obsessed with Malik Willis or something like that. But I do think Ike Ekwonu is really good and fits this team really well. And is OT1 also above Evan Neal. So I know that's gonna make people mad, but it's the truth. So, but anyway, neither one of those players are likely to be available for us at 8, or else this pick is going to be really, really easy.
If you use the PFF mock simulator, Icky shows up at 8 quite a bit, and it's a little wonky.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've done PFF one, and he's drops a lot. So
yeah. It doesn't surprise me. That's funny because he did actually drop. So I'll read off the top 8 to you guys. The reason he did, the reason he dropped is because 2 quarterbacks went. So we had Aiden Hutchinson go 1. Despite Trayvon Walker sort of gaining steam for 1, I still think it's probably going to be Hutchinson, but we'll see. Malik Willis 2 to the Lions, which that one is gaining a lot of steam, and I think that one's very possible just because the Lions have Jared Goff, and I would want Malik Willis if I had Jared Goff. So yeah, I don't blame them. Trayvon Walker did go at 3 to the Texans. Then we had Ahmad Sauce Gardner at 4 to the Jets. Evan Neal was the first offensive tackle off the board at 5 to the Giants. The Panthers took Kenny Pickett at 6, which I think is actually going to happen. And then the Giants took Kayvon Thibodeau at 7. So I think this is a possible scenario, certainly. I don't think any of those picks are totally out of left field. I think this is an interesting way the 7 could fall, but I don't think it's that outlandish, to where we need to restart it or anything.
See, this is one of those situations where this happens, and then they go receiver. It's
I swear to God, if they pass on Ike Ekwonu or Hamilton or Jermaine Johnson for a receiver, I'm gonna throw hands with my monitor on draft night. But so the top available players according to the board: Ike Ekwonu, Charles Cross, Kyle Hamilton, Jermaine Johnson are the top 4. I think all of those guys are worthy selections at 8. We could consider a trade as well. But I think the presence of Ekwonu here does make a trade a little bit more of an open question because, Ekwonu, I think, is OT1. Obviously, I think he'd be a terrific right tackle. Fits the scheme really well. What are you guys thinking, Aaron? I'll let you get the first crack at it. Would you take like Ekwonu here, or would you see what we can get in a trade down? We could try to propose some stuff, but.
Well, I know we're trying to trade down, but honestly, I think if Ekwonu is there, if we're doing a predicted, I think they'll sprint to the board and get him, because I feel like the connections that they have, Dwayne Ledford, the offensive line coach, was at NC State when they recruited Ekwonu. Sean, Flaherty or whoever they picked, Flatley, whatever his name is, sorry, to that assistant coach that they hired, was an assistant offensive line coach at NC State these last couple of years. So he coached Ekwonu, scheme fit, positional versatility. He brings that nastiness, that toughness that we saw them covet in last year's draft picks, and Jalen Mayfield and Drew Dolman. Those were the only standout traits that both of those guys had, although Dolman was a pretty good athlete for the center position. But I feel like if we're playing in reality, in a very, at least I see an unlikely scenario where Ekwonu falls to them at 8, I think they're sprinting through the board to take him, even if, and he also can play left guard. That's where he played a little bit last year before left tackle. And so it's one of those things where I feel like he makes all the sense in the world for the Falcons at 8, but I know we're interested in trade backs. So I will, those are my 2 cents basically.
Yeah. And, you guys can all, I think the only reason I wouldn't do a Ekwonu pick here is because we are trying to trade for this one, and that it's probably unlikely. I think the way that this went down in terms of how the board fell is like a realistic way it could happen. Like if 2 quarterbacks go, then there's definitely going to be somebody that's not expected to be there. It could also make a trade down more likely because there could be players here that teams covet that weren't expected to be here. And if 2 quarterbacks go, anyone who wants Ritter might be panicking at this point. Like, oh my God, if we want to get a guy, we're going to have to trade up. So like, for example, we could see, like I'm putting together a package right now, Pittsburgh interested, rumored to be interested in Desmond Ritter, Pickett, and Malik Willis. 2 of those 3 are off the board now. So, the simulator's saying we have a solid chance of getting from Pittsburgh 20, which is their first round pick, number 52, which is their second round pick, and a 2023 first rounder as well. And I don't know if they'd accept it. It says it's likely to be accepted. But so I think that's pretty good haul if they can get a second this year and Pittsburgh's first next year. We could try to set up trade packages to other picks too. I sort of think, as always, it's most likely that you're going to get offers for quarterbacks. But I'm open to your guys' thoughts on that sort of package, or if we should try to look at other options there.
I'm always a fan of getting the future first, but I'll let others speak on it.
Yeah, it seems very worthwhile. And if we're going to be going into a scenario potentially here where we're not getting a quarterback, or at least one that we feel really good about, then that future first will come in handy probably a year from now, assuming everybody's still here to use it.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think they may covet 2023 firsts in a trade down more than getting, like, we could get Pittsburgh's 3rd and 4th rounder this year too. Like if we wanted to go that route, we could get like 4 picks from them this year. But first of all, I don't think Pittsburgh wants to trade away their entire like top 100 for 1 pick. I don't think that's unlikely to happen for PR reasons, among others. And I think the Falcons will covet that 2023 first. So we could see if they'll take this trade, and if they do, then we can go that route. If not, we may have to get creative with other stuff. But you guys fine with proposing this trade to Pittsburgh to see if they want to come up for their guy?
Yeah, I definitely.
I mean, plus that that could be a top 15 pick. No offense to Mitchell Trubisky or whoever, but that could be a pretty good pick next year.
Yeah, and the only thing is it's like all the way down to 20. So you're probably not going to have any of these guys that you were going to possibly be considering at 8 falling. But the depth of this class, I think, is in that like sort of 15 to 25-ish range where you're going to get a really good player, if they want a wide receiver, that could be a good place to take him before there's probably a run on receivers later in the first. So let's see what they say. Let's see what they say to this offer. No, they said no. I didn't Dimitrov it well enough, you guys. Let's see if they'll do it if I throw in the pick 213.
Oh, not pick 213. Come on.
I know. We're gonna send in the pot sweetener. All right. Haha! Yeah, the pot sweetener, guys. See, that was some savvy GM work right there that we just pulled. They were like, they tried to come back and say no with the counter offer, and we were like, all right, I'll do you this solid. Send you an extra 6th-round pick, and lo and behold.
So what did we officially get?
All right, we got pick number 20, Pittsburgh's 2nd-round pick, which I believe is 52. And then we got a 2023 first. And then we gave up 8 and pick 213. So mercifully, we don't have to pick at 213. So that's a double bonus, actually.
Can you see who they traded to come up for?
Let's see. The simulator says they traded up for Jordan Davis. So hey, George Costanza is gonna be happy about that. But I don't think they would trade up for Jordan Davis. But if anything, they'd be trading up for Ritter. Maybe somebody trading up for Ekwonu if he actually did fall there, or like a top corner maybe. Kyle Hamilton, obviously, people that want one of the remaining, like if they want Jermaine Johnson, who's sort of like the last of the top edges. But all those guys are gone by the time the Falcons are on the clock. So let's see who the Falcons have to
Ritter
choose
went
from here.
To the Saints.
Yeah, that would have been nice if
before
Ritter
the
fell
Falcons
to
pick.
20. Yeah, that would have been nice. But I think Falcons fans would probably be upset with us for taking Ritter even at 20. Which if the Falcons do trade down to 20 and Ritter's still there, they're probably taking Ritter predictably. So let's see. Yeah,
especially when you have 3 second-round picks.
Yeah, exactly. So top of the board here, Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. We also have Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle from Georgia, who's also very good. Zion Johnson, interior offensive lineman. Trent McDuffie, Tyler Linderbaum, Kenyon Green, Devin Lloyd, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson. And then it sort of gets where we're going to be reaching on guys after that. Yeah, I mean, I could see any of those top 3 guys. I mean, I could see Jameson. I think Jameson Williams makes a lot of sense for the Falcons. I don't think they're going to care that he might miss the first 6 weeks or whatever of the 2022 season. I don't think they care about that at all because, lo and behold, this team's probably not going to be that great in 2022. I don't think they really care for their first-round pick if he's going to miss a couple games. I also think Devontae Wyatt is extremely good. And I think he'd be worthy of this selection. Zion Johnson would give them a potentially elite left guard who can play basically any position on the offensive line if you need it. So I think at 20, I sort of dislike dropping another premium pick into the offensive line, but I think at 20, you could make the case for Zion Johnson being a massive upgrade at left guard. Trent McDuffie's a really good corner too. I just don't think that needs as big. And I like Devin Lloyd a lot. I don't know. That's probably not going to be as popular. The only other receiver I probably consider, I mean, I like Jahan Dotson. I'd probably take Olave over Dotson, but they're like right next to each other in my rankings. So that's a tough call. But Jameson's the highest receiver I have left. But what do you guys think? Dave, I'll let you get the first word in here. Where are you sort of leaning with this pick? Do you have a preference of position or player?
I think Williams would be pretty hard to pass up. I am a little bit intrigued by Linderbaum here as well. Honestly, I think we know where this team needs help, and I think he's going to be really good in the pros. So I would probably lean toward one of those 2 guys. And I think given this team's dearth of playmakers and Williams sort of being here and being potentially a really great receiver, it's probably worth it. I would not have taken a receiver at 8. I would probably take one at 20. Yeah.
John Louderman, you need to calm down, buddy. You're gonna get silenced if you keep spinning. Like, I know you want Jameson. You could type it 1 time. That's enough. You could type it 2 times even, but that's enough of that. Yes, Aaron, your thoughts at this pick?
I'm a big fan of Jamison Williams. He's my number 1 wide receiver. I'm a big fan of Jahan Dotson. He's my number 3 wide receiver. But I cannot fathom a world where the Falcons start their rebuild with a wide receiver as the sort of foundational piece of their offense. So while I like these wide receivers, while I would love to get some of these wide receivers, going in round 1 to get a wide receiver, it just does not sit right with me. I would much rather get the trench player. I'd much rather get a Zion Johnson. I'd much rather get a Devontae Wyatt, especially in a world where we're not convinced that Grady Jarrett's going to be here long term.
Right.
And Devontae Wyatt makes a lot of sense as if in a both in a world where Grady Jarrett's around, you get him another D tackle with a little bit more size up front that can be a 3-down difference maker. And in a world where the Falcons are moving on from Grady Jarrett, in the next 12 months, you have your ready-made replacement. And I'm, and again, we're doing predictive, so
Yeah.
I don't want to put my opinion too much into this, but I would like to believe that if the Falcons aren't going to get a quarterback, that they have to start this rebuild somewhere along the trenches. And if we're not as open to the idea of taking another offensive lineman, as we were with Ike Ekwonu or Zion Johnson or Tyler Linderbaum, then I think getting a difference maker like Devontae Wyatt makes a ton of sense here at 20.
Yeah, I was wondering if anyone else would support Devontae Wyatt because, I think it makes a lot of sense with Jamison Williams and they have the need there. I also think that the depth at wide receiver is like drastically better than at defensive tackle. I think sort of after you get past Devontae Wyatt and Perion Winfrey, someone who's probably not likely to be there in the second round, you sort of the defensive tackle depth in this draft is not great. I mean, I think you've got Travis Jones if you're looking for a nose, and like I said, Perion Winfrey, maybe a couple other guys. But I mean, Devontae Wyatt's really good. He can play a versatile role. He's got the size and the strength to sort of line up in a lot of different places. Obviously, he's best as a 3 technique. I know people are like, oh, well, in the 3-4, is he going to get to play 3 technique? Like, sure. Like, why not? You can play fronts where you've got your nose and you got 2-3 techniques. You can play with 1-3 technique and a 5 technique. You can play, with all kinds of stuff. Like, they can find ways to get Devontae Wyatt on the field. I wouldn't worry about that. I think that's sort of overblown for the defensive scheme. I guess I would lean Wyatt slightly. I do understand the Jamison Williams stuff. I think that would be another good pick. And I think I would lean Zion Johnson a little bit over Linderbaum just because I think Linderbaum is probably a center only. And I think the need is a lot greater at left guard than at center. I think Hennessy's more serviceable. And I think, Zion, Zion, you could play him anywhere. I think Linderbaum is going to have issues at the NFL level. Outside of center, I think his weight issues are probably a little overblown if he's playing center. But if he's having to play guard, I don't know how well that's going to work out based on his size profile. But let's take a vote here. I guess my choice would be Devontae Wyatt. Aaron, where are you leaning?
I lean Wyatt.
Dave, what do you think?
I guess I'd lean Williams here, but I also Wyatt. I think
you're okay
great,
with
so
Wyatt.
I'm not going to overrule. Not that I can do that anyways.
Overrule,
yeah.
Dave.
Yeah. Maybe if Metroff was still here, I'd do an impression, but we can do that.
Yeah, Evan, do you have a preference between like wide receiver, defensive tackle, offensive line here?
Yeah, I'd go Wyatt mainly because we have 3 second-round picks and there's still some good receivers left. So
yeah, we could take 2.
I don't think Williams is that far ahead of the. Yeah, right. To where, I like what you were saying, with Wyatt. So that's who I would go with.
All right, let's do it. Let's do Devontae Wyatt here. Very non-traditional pick for the Falcons. I don't know if you've ever seen Devontae Wyatt mock to Atlanta in any mock draft. So we're delivering the spiciest of all mock drafts tonight. All right, so Falcons will be up again in, I believe, 43. So just a couple picks, and we'll see what's on the board there. Maybe an edge guy, maybe a wide receiver. That's generally what we see for the Falcons at that point in the draft. I can see if anybody else interesting falls to that pick. All right, so top guys available here. Got Perrion Winfrey, who doesn't really make sense now that we took Devontae Wyatt. Winfrey's sort of like a less
Christian
developed.
Watson,
Yeah. Oh yeah, Christian Watson. That's probably where I'm gonna lean. Nakobe Dean is still there, which is very tempting.
that's
yeah. Quay Walker too is there. The only thing about linebackers, like Dean's really good, but there's a lot of good linebackers in this class. And wide receiver is gonna thin out real quick if we don't take one here. And I know Aaron is very much anti George Pickens. So like if we don't take Christian Watson here, we're going to have to pick George Pickens probably. So, but yeah.
And it's mentioned, somebody in the chat mentioned it, but I mean, there's a bunch of teams coming up who need a receiver. So if we punted it, Chiefs, they get to pick before the Falcons. We get to pick in this scenario before Green Bay. So, we would maybe get another shot, but I think it'd just be safer to grab Watson now than, just in case sort of thing.
Yeah, and Nakobe Dean's very tempting. I think the need at wide receiver is a lot greater, and I think Watson is a very deserving player at this spot as well. Dave, do you have a preference between like Nakobe Dean or Watson at this point?
I guess I find it hard to say no to Dean here.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I just stumped for Williams, and maybe I'm trying to make friends with all the Georgia fans who I said every year we're not going to pick any dogs because it just doesn't happen, so let's get 2 in the first 2 rounds. Let's go for it, man. Let's
just go for an all dog draft. We'll take Dean, then we'll take George Pickens, then
yeah, exactly. Like why not? But I would say Dean or Watson, and I personally would have a hard time passing up Dean. I think he's going to be really terrific. Yeah. And like, I know we're stacking Georgia defenders, but this does seem to be the year to do that.
Right. I mean, I think people think Dean being here is like out of the question. And I think that it's more likely than people maybe think, just because he's a smaller linebacker. We saw a guy with similar stature in like a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, did fall like significantly when he really should have been a first round pick on talent. He ended up falling. So like, I think Dean being here is not that surprising to me. I think it's not, particularly likely, but I think seeing it is not shocking to me. But I do feel like if we don't take a wide receiver here, we're going to get sort of boxed in. And I do really like Christian Watson. So I guess I lean Christian Watson slightly, but I think if they were to go like pure BPA, it would probably be someone like Dean. But I do think there's a non-zero chance that like if we take Watson here, Quay Walker could still be there at 52. So we could still get another dog. We could still get another dog in here, which is the most important thing, as we all know. There's also, of course, other really good players. Like I think Daniel Falele is still here. It seems like this is like early for him, with the way things have fallen, but I still like Falele a lot. At edge, someone like Cameron Thomas, maybe we could hope to get someone like him or another edge rusher a little bit later. Tyler Smith on the offensive line is here as well. Or a quarterback. I sort of think I'm not the biggest Sam Howell fan, so I'm not, super into that. I think they just are going to punt. Like, I think if they do trade down to 20 and Desmond Ritter's not there, they're probably just going to punt on quarterback. So I guess I'm leaning Watson. I think, Aaron, you said you were leaning Watson as well.
Actually, I echo kind of Dave's sentiments that if Dean is sitting there, it's kind of hard to pass up when you're talking that best player available. Mm-hmm. I am a big fan of Watson. I do rate him higher than George Pickens. He's my wide receiver 7 at this point in time. So like I am intrigued by Watson, but I'm also kind of the mindset, and again, this may just be my own bias, where it's like, like, is Watson really going to be that much of a difference maker for you moving forward when you don't know who your quarterback is going to be, when you have Kyle Pitts already as probably your top dog in your passing attack? So you're essentially, even though Watson is going to be the wide receiver 1, he's going to be the receiver 2 in your offense, which again adds value to your offense. You do need more than one weapon. But if you truly believe that Nakobe Dean, like a lot of people believe, is one of the 20 best players in this draft class, and can be the leader of your defense and give you all the things that you didn't get from Deion Jones these last couple of years in that sort of role, it is hard to pass up. Although, again, it does, from the outside looking in, it does feel like we're just a bunch of Georgia homers, even though I don't think any of us would be described as that. But
No,
it's just,
not at all.
if you're going to get like two players from that Georgia defense, you can make a really strong case that Devontae Wyatt and Nakobe Dean would be the two guys that you really want to get. So, I'm
open.
I'm torn on this because I feel like, even though this is a deep linebacker class, the value that Dean represents at this spot in the draft, and I agree with you, Kevin, I could certainly see a world where he falls out of the first round because of the size concerns. I would be surprised if he's here at 43 all the way, like someone's going to snatch him up in the early second round before the Falcons are on the clock. But if he does make it to this far, when you're talking best player available, it's hard to imagine a better player available than Nakobe Dean at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I think that going with predictively, the team is probably going to. I think they really do want to do BP, and I think Dean and Watson will be their highest players at this point based on what we've seen. And I'm totally down with taking Dean. So if you guys are leaning Dean over Christian Watson, I'm fine with that. I haven't had a chance to draft Dean in any of these mock drafts either. So, I'm open to writing a different blurb and not just copy pasting my Christian Watson pick for like the 7th time. So I'm totally down for that. And I do think that's an interesting thing. It's sort of a more defense heavy draft early. We generally see wide receiver with one of these two picks. So I'm down. So if you guys are down for Nakobe Dean here, I'm down as well.
For because it's hard to see. Yeah. Can you show what receivers are there? Just assuming, I think unless this thing, goes a different way, that the Chiefs are taking, Watson. Like, I don't think he's coming back, but like what's the other receivers that are there after?
Pickens.
I know, but
David Bell, John Mechie, Calvin Austin, Jalen Tolbert, Kyle Phillips, Wandale, Khalil Shakir, Alec Pierce. So it's like, I think the Falcons could go this route and try to take two of these sort of day two guys instead of
Is Sky Moore gone?
Yeah, he actually went at 39, so he's actually already off.
Yeah, he went to the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we can take our chances. We can sort of see what happens. Like, I think if the Falcons came away, like, they didn't get Watson, but they ended up coming away with, like, Alec Pierce and Calvin Austin or Jalen Tolbert and somebody else. Like, if we went for go for like a scatter shot, add a couple of sort of wide receiver 2-3 types instead of maybe a wide receiver 1, like Kyle Pitts be your wide receiver 1, which maybe was going to happen anyway. Like, I'm open to trying that approach as well. So yeah, let's do Dean. Let's shake it up. Let's go for Nakobe Dean here. If he does fall, I think that's a great pick. The Falcons do have a bunch of second round picks, so I think we can fill a lot of holes here and sort of just see how it falls, and we'll take advantage of other teams making mistakes, like passing on Nakobe Dean with 42 picks. So yeah, Quay Walker did go immediately after that pick too. That's really funny. All these dogs coming off the board. All right, we're back on the clock at 52. This is the Steelers pick. All right, so top Christian Watson's still here. That's funny. The Chiefs didn't take a receiver at 50 because they took Jahan Dotson at 29. So they already took a receiver. And then everybody else.
Okay.
So then we're definitely taking Watson here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And we're going to pick again in 6 picks. So, we can just see what else happens there. But yeah, all that not gnashing of teeth over missing on Watson, and then he falls anyway. So we'll just.
And we get both. How about that?
How about that? All right, let's see. We just go a couple picks here.
So the Chiefs ended up taking Isaiah Spiller. Is that what that says?
Yeah, they took Isaiah Spiller.
Like, who was it? They
took Isaiah Spiller at 50. All right, 58. So we have some running backs. If we're interested in going for an earlier running back, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are still there. Daniel Falele at offensive tackle is still there. Let's see. At edge, we got Josh Pascal. Kingsley still there. Drake Jackson, Sam Williams. Probably be my top choices there. I feel like if we don't get if we have a preferred edge of that group, we probably have to select one of them soon, or they're gonna start going. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Falele is intriguing, but the Falcons did sign like a bunch of tackles. I mean, they're not necessarily long-term guys, but they sort of solidified that spot. I do think this is the spot where they would start considering, like, if they do have 3 second-round picks, they might consider adding like a top running back, like a Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. I think are both interesting. But yeah,
It
Aaron,
would be tempting.
Yeah, it would be. What do you think about what's on the board here?
I'm intrigued.
Do we think that Arthur Smith can resist Howell?
Do they like Howell? I don't know. I mean, maybe they do. I'm just not sure.
I don't know.
It's tough. We're at the point where it's like now you're at the point in the draft where it does feel like you need to start filling some needs, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just strictly going best player available. But I guess if you are going best player available, would that be someone like a Breece Hall to get you that sort of potential feature running back? I know Kevin, you and I have had conversations about whether you value Breece Hall above some of the other guys, but with this regime, do they want that guy that's the RB1 on a lot of people's boards?
Yeah.
You got DT1 on some people's boards. I know not George Costanza's board, but you got Wyatt in that. You got Dean in that. You didn't get wide receiver 1 in terms of Watson on a board, but does it make sense to get what a lot of people see as the top running back at this point in the draft? I don't know. I will defer to anybody else if they have a strong opinion on it at this point.
I think that's very
I would
tempting.
vote for Hall personally. I love Hall, and I think that the Falcons can't sort of stopgap, with 30-year-old running backs forever. So I would support Hall. I think the Falcons did, I believe, host or are hosting Howell for a visit. I think even if that's maybe not the choice we want to make, we should think about it a little bit. If we think, again, that they feel it's important to get a quarterback this year, they appear to have a level of interest. But my personal pick would be Hall, and I think you can make a really you can make a strong argument that he would be the best player on their board here.
Yeah, I think it's sort of at this spot, like if pick 58 comes around and they haven't picked a quarterback, I think that's sort of like a tacit acknowledgement that they're just not that high on whoever's left. In this case, it's Howell, Carson Strong, and those guys. I sort of think like if they are high on like a Sam Howell as a potential guy, they'll take him at like 43. Like they're not gonna risk him going off the board. And if they pass, it's sort of also an acknowledgement of like we're not that high on this guy. We're comfortable passing. The visit certainly is a sign that they're doing their homework on these guys, but they're doing their homework on every single one. They're not going to be trying to draft every single one of these quarterbacks, more than likely. So, I think at this point, if they haven't taken a quarterback, they're probably fine punting on the position. And we got the extra first-round pick next year, which sort of implies that they're hoping to be able to take a swing next year if someone they like is there. I also think that this team is probably shifting its priorities. It's shifting its offense in a big way. I think that this is going to be a ground and pound and hopefully defense, lean on the defense more type of offense with Matt Ryan gone. Like this isn't going to be a high flying passing attack. And I think if you look at the way we've done this draft so far, it sort of goes to that. Like we got an impact defensive tackle. If they keep Grady, they're going to have this dynamic duo of interior defensive linemen. They've got Anthony Rush at the nose. That's a pretty imposing 3 guys there. They got an impact, some would say the best linebacker in the draft in Nakobe Dean that can do it all. They got Christian Watson, who's a dynamic height, weight, speed, possible wide receiver 1. But right now, what he does really well is he runs downfield and is a deep threat, and he run blocks his ass off. So, Watson's one of the top, I think, 15 run blocking wide receivers in the entire draft class, according to PFF. So, this is all sort of setting up for that sort of change on offense, which is like, we're going to do what Arthur Smith always has wanted to do, which is we're going to run 2 tight end sets. We're going to have dynamic speed guys on the outside that are going to be willing to block, and we're going to go to this play action run heavy style that we really didn't do with Matt Ryan because the Falcons were going to throw the ball more when they had Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage and all this. So I think if they're going to go to this more balanced offense, I think it will be a priority for them to get this dynamic sort of RB1 that can take the lion's share of the carries as the workhorse. They're still going to utilize Patterson, but they can sort of free him up to be their matchup guy as opposed to the guy that's got to take 10, 15 carries a game. So
Plus,
I'm totally down.
If they want to save, wear and tear on him, having Damian Williams there too, they can kind of see, use Hall a little and not unleash him completely, just, for looking towards the future.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good pick, but
yeah, I mean, I'm down for Hall here. I think that makes a lot of sense. If they were to do a draft like this, I think they would prioritize at 58. That's not too early for a running back. I think if you think you're getting the best running back in the class of 58, that's fair. That's fair value. I think this is a deep running back class, but I also think that, Hall, I think has some of the best tape as a runner of any running back in this class. And then he went out and tested like an absolute just dynamo. I mean, I thought Hall was fast, but I didn't think he was 4.3s fast. And his other testing was phenomenal as well. So this is a guy that is a dynamic runner who can do a lot for you. And I think is a perfect fit for the type of scheme that they're going to be running. So I'm down for Hall. Is everybody in support of the Hall pick here?
Yeah,
Sure.
Cool. Let's do it. All right. So this is, I like it. I like it so far. I think it's a strong class, especially when you consider that they picked up an extra second and they got a 2023 first, which we're not going to make that pick in this draft, but that's a huge asset for the future. So, coming away with this sort of haul after a trade down would be crazy. And that's why so many people are fans of trade downs, right? It's because you can get more bites at the apple. And I think in this draft class, that's a big deal because it's a deep class. All right, so
Howell's still there.
I feel like at this point they're just not going to take a quarterback. If they're not taking him earlier, they're just not going to take a quarterback. So I feel like we could probably wave off quarterback. Travis Jones is still there, which is somewhat intriguing, just because they don't necessarily have that dynamic nose tackle. But they already took one tackle, defensive tackle. So it's are they going to take another one? Isaiah Likely's still here at tight end. That's a guy I like a lot. It's a dual threat, good blocker, good receiver. High-end tight end too. Cade Otton as well. So there's some options at tight end. Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State is available at offensive tackle. I think that's a potential good right tackle long-term for this team. Just a good player. Doesn't have the ceiling of some of those guys that are going ahead of him, but I think he's a solid starter or better. We've got linebackers, so we don't need to worry about that too much, but there's a lot of good linebackers here. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, edge, we're getting thinner, so we probably want to take an edge here. Sam Williams is still here, so that would probably be where I'd lean. But I know there's some Majai Sanders supporters. Nick Bedino is here. Tyreek Smith. I definitely lean Sam Williams here. So yeah, I mean, he's not the highest player ranked on the board, but I think if they haven't taken an edge yet, they sort of have to. And I think Williams is a little bit slept on. I have him ranked higher than this, so I would definitely have him near the top of my board at 74. But interested to hear what you guys think about some of these options left. Dave, do you have a preference in terms of going after a tight end 2 or getting an edge finally, or going up towards the top of the board? Any thoughts on the crop we got here?
Oh, you're muted, Dave, I think.
Oh no, we lost Dave.
Oh, did we lose him?
No, I don't think so. I think he's probably just muted.
No, I don't think he's muted. I think his microphone wonked out.
Oh no. All right. Well, Aaron, you can go, and then we'll get Dave back when he's available.
My comment, I'm on similar wavelength with you, Kevin. You feel like you got to get an edge at this point. If you got to pull the trigger because things are getting a little thinner here. It's not to say that there aren't other players, but you're essentially going to get a rotational piece after this point. my only comment is, TDN has Travis Jones way too low on their predictive
Yes,
board.
definitely.
He's probably like 30 spots too low on this thing, and
for
that's
sure.
why there's no reason for him to still be on the board at this
Absolutely
point.
not.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've already said your piece on Sam Howell. I would sit here at 74 and be like, this is great value.
Oh
at a
yeah,
point to get Sam Howell.
definitely.
But yeah, I do feel like, I'm a little bit more partial to Nick Benito, but I will, let the others speak on that. I don't have a real problem with Sam Williams at this point in the draft.
I like Nick Benito too. I don't have a problem with that one either. They're both good edge rushers, but yeah. Dave, do you have a preference for where we go, what direction with this pick?
Can you guys hear me this time?
We can. Yes.
Okay, great. I was going to say, I feel like I don't know myself. Maybe saying an edge rush would not be my top choice here, but I would be, if Jones is there, if Howell's there, I would be sorely tempted by one of those guys, honestly. I have absolutely no problem with Benito or Williams there. And I think if that's our consensus, I'm not going to say no to a potentially productive edge rusher, but if somehow you found yourself, choosing between Jones and Howell and a couple of edge rushers, I feel like they would go Jones if he was there, just because it's such tremendous value. And it might be unrealistic, certainly, but if you're putting yourself in the Falcons' shoes and you're sort of sticking to the best player available, I think that's who you'd take.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Travis Jones is here, it's a slam dunk. I sort of think it's extremely unlikely. And the same thing with Howell. I think Carson Strong could be here potentially, but I think that Howell and Travis Jones, somebody's going to take a swing on them by the top of the third round, I would think. So I think I'd probably lean away from those just because I feel like we got our value picks with guys that fell already with Dean and Watson. If we start taking Travis Jones and Sam Howell in the third, people are gonna be like, oh, this is an unrealistic mock. You guys, you're so terrible or whatever. So the haters are gonna have a field day with that. But
Kevin's worried about the comments.
I am. I have to read them. So yeah, I don't have to read them, but I can't help myself sometimes. But yeah, if you guys I sort of crossing off Howell and Jones because I agree, to state it, if Sam Howell and Travis Jones are here, then I think those are the sort of clear-cut picks. We're going to take one of those guys. I think they're very unlikely to be here, so I'm sort of moving past them. But I think, I think a tight end is on the table, but I think if you look at the need at edge, it's more significant. I think if they don't, come away with at least one edge rusher in this class, people are going to riot. And they really do need bodies there. And if you prefer Nick Benito, I'm fine with that. I like Williams too. Very different styles of players, very different, both good. So yeah, if you prefer Benito, we can do that.
I have another curveball just to overcomplicate things.
Go for it.
We know that they love some Cincinnati guys. Are we convinced that they may not take a guy like Mijai? I still don't know how to say his name. Sanders.
I think it's Mijai
at this point. Because we know that they. It's Georgia and Cincinnati. If we're going to just stack our board, it's just going to be nothing but UGA and Cincinnati guys. And I'm sure the Georgia fans are going to be like, why are you going to take a Cincinnati guy? They couldn't even beat Alabama.
They couldn't even beat Alabama. You're right. That's a strong point. To me, it's I like Sanders. I think they might like him a little bit more. It was certainly, good to see him weigh in at a more respectable weight at his pro day. I'm concerned about the weight because I think he played in the 230s at Cincinnati. And then he showed up at the Senior Bowl in the 240s and it's and then he looked great. He looked powerful, didn't have a lot of those issues on tape that you're used to seeing. He did a great job. Then at the Combine shows up at 220, 228 or something like that. And it's oh my God, this is exactly what I was afraid of. It was allegedly an illness, which, I don't think that's entirely out of the question. And then at his pro day, he was back in the 240s again. So it scares me a little bit to where I'd probably prefer one of these other guys. I also think Sanders' lack of high-end production is a little bit concerning too, as opposed to a Benito or Sam Williams. But I I think it's entirely possible that if we like Sanders, he might be available a little bit later. But yeah, I guess with Sanders, I'm just a little bit lower on him than consensus tends to be, just because I just thought he was a little light. But in this scheme, you can sometimes get away with that with your 3-4 outside linebackers, but which is why we're considering someone like Benito. But Benito wasn't exactly the heaviest edge rusher either in college. But I thought Benito's power at the point of attack was not as much of a concern. I thought he was very sound as a run defender. He's not the most powerful guy, but if you want power, that's more like Sam Williams. But yeah, I'm torn though. I think that's a good point. So let's can we agree on edge? We can narrow down the position to edge for this pick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. yes. That's what we're going for. So now we can say our preferred player of who's left. I guess I'm warming up to Nick Benito as well. So I'll go with Benito here. Aaron, are you sticking with Benito or are you going to go with Sanders?
I mean, my personal preference is Benito, but I don't necessarily feel that strongly about it. That
right.
If you're more partial to Sam Williams, I'll let Dave and Evan chime in if they have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, they're very close to each other on my board, and like I said, there's sort of different flavors. Sam Williams is more of that power rusher with explosiveness. Nick Benito's the bendy guy. Sam Williams is gonna be heavier. Benito's gonna be a little lighter. Both good players, but yeah, choosing between those styles. Dave, do you have a preference between the speed rusher Nick Benito or more of the power explosiveness rusher with like a Sam Williams?
I'm not going to break the tie here. I guess I don't have a strong preference, so I'm going to leave that to Evan.
I was going to do the same. So
all right,
I'll throw in an extra 2 cents that will break the tie. We know they like longer guys. Sam Williams has the longer length, so that probably breaks the tie, right?
That's a good tiebreaker. All right, so this is a long roundabout way to come back to Sam Williams after all this effort to convince me to switch to Nick Benito, and then we're back at Sam Williams. But that's fine. Yeah, this is probably exactly what it's like in a real draft room. It's just like, oh, what about this guy? And it's like, no, this guy. And then it's like, actually, you were right. Let's go with the first guy. So, this is the collaboration. I hope the Falcons
we look back and Benito's a Hall of Famer.
Right. Damn it. Yeah, we're just a bunch of jokers. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's
pretty much what it is. Yeah, this is why we don't get paid to make the big decisions.
We should pay attention to where Nick Benito goes because he's going to be a future Hall of Famer for that team.
Yeah, well, he's still on the board at 82, so we could take Nick Benito and Sam Williams. Get that double stack. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Double dip.
I mean, what would your other option be?
Well, let's look at who else is available too. But there's a lot of linebackers: Leo Chenal, Channing Tindall. The tight ends: Cade Otton, Jeremy Ruckert, Greg Dulcich. So those top tight ends are still there. Maybe some corners.
Sam Howell's still out there.
Sam Howell is still there, but we're taking Howell off the board at this point. Clearly, the simulator has forgotten about him. Yeah.
At some point, we might just have to take him just to be he has to go.
We can't, just so we can
be in
save
that green
him.
room for like 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. Poor Sam Howell. I feel like the simulator has forgotten about him because I'm pretty sure Carson Strong just went ahead of him. So he's probably the most offended man in all of the draft at this point.
Nobody's thirsting for Howell, I guess. Yeah,
I guess not. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But no, I think Howell will be gone by this point. At wide receiver, we did get Watson, Jalen Tolbert, Wandale, Kyle Phillips, Khalil Shakir, and Alec Pierce are all there. With the Watson pick, it's not as pressing to get another receiver here. I think tight end is a consideration, but again, it's not super pressing. Linebacker, I don't think getting another linebacker is a super high priority. Just because they have Evans and Michael Walker and Nakobe Dean. It's sort of like, I don't know if we need to add another body in there. It's just going to be super crowded at this point. Maybe they trade Deion Jones, but, we'll see. I think double dipping at edge and getting Benito makes sense. I think getting, Otten, Ruckert, or Greg Dulcich, all of those make sense to add like a dynamic tight end in there. And then you've got a really good tight end room like Kyle Pitts, Cade Otton, and Anthony Firkser as your top 3 with a blocking specialist like a Parker Hesse as your tight end 4. That's all of a sudden looking like a really good tight end room. I don't necessarily love Mario Goodrich is a solid corner. Marcus Jones is a good corner. We already got a running back, so we're good there. We could get the punt god, You want to get the punt god in the 3rd round?
How far down is he on the list?
He's like pick 100, I think. So, he's not that far.
Because, I want him, but yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Well, I know Thomas Morstead, the former Falcon, long time 12-year veteran here. He's a big fan of Jordan Stout. So if he could handpick his successor, that's where he would go. But I don't think Jordan Stout's even on TDN's draft board.
I don't think so. Honestly, the only punter might be Ariza, and they only added him recently. But maybe Kamar doesn't. They definitely don't have a way to sort by specialists. That's what they need. They need to add that. But
yeah.
Abraham Lucas of Washington State, the offensive tackle, is there. I do like him as like a developmental tackle. Great athlete, at least tested like one. I know his film sometimes showed that athleticism, other times did not. So that could be an option if we're looking to fill another need, like a developmental tackle. I guess I would lean
Who are some
towards
of the interior guys? Are there
offensive
any
linemen?
Good interior guys?
Ed Ingram, Cole Strange, Spencer Burford, and Alec Lindstrom are the top guys still there. So Ed Ingram's somewhat tempting if they're looking for like someone to compete at guard. It's just like, I don't know. They definitely didn't spend anything on getting a guard upgrade. So like maybe they really are just going to draft another guard, but it just seems like we're just going to draft a guard every year until we find one. And maybe that's a good methodology after all, but
I'm my official stance is I'm in favor of double dipping here at the edge rusher and seeing maybe one of these guys that we're talking about on periphery, see if they fall to us at 114. That's our next pick, right?
Yeah. So, I think that's fine. Like, there's a lot of good tight ends. So I feel like if we wait at tight end, theoretically, there should still be one if we wanted to do that. Same thing with some of these other positions we were talking about. So I'm down for that. You guys want to hit
but between the two of them, one of them has to be good, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're going to go with the speed guy and the explosiveness guy. And like one of these two methods is going to be effective. I don't know exactly which one yet, but I think it is likely, like if they do wait until this like late day 3 range to take edge, it would be smart to take 2 because we need the depth just as much as we need the impact guys, and you're hoping like that one of these guys can really hit for you, along with like Ogundeji like sort of stepping up as well, because Lorenzo Carter, as confident as he was in being the edge one in Atlanta, this man does need help, like a lot of it. Dave, are you good with double dipping at edge?
Yes, that's a dream come true for me. I mean, when was the last time that happened?
I certainly can't remember it. I can't remember the last time we even took a good edge rusher. So,
did we take 2 edges in that draft where we got Stanley Mapanga?
I think
considered him one. Yeah.
Was Mapanga in with Massaquoi, or was that a different year?
Massaquoi was 2012. Was Mapanga 2013?
He might have been
the Toy Lolo draft.
I think I got to pull up the draft history now because
yeah.
We'll make the pick and I'll
we'll make the pick while we're waiting for it. Yeah, we could do some research while we're waiting, but we'll go with Benito here. Get that edge double dip going. So quick recap for everyone. We've got Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle. First of all, Falcons traded down from 8 to 20 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, picked up a second round pick number 52 and a 2023 first rounder from the Steelers. The Falcons sent pick 8, and we threw in pick 213 as a pot sweetener because they wouldn't take the deal unless we did. So, hey, the Steelers, they got their extra 6th rounder. So we offloaded that. So the Falcons took Devontae Wyatt, the Georgia defensive tackle, at 20. Then we came back around and saw linebacker Nakobe Dean fall to 43, and that was just too good to pass up. Took Dean there. Then at 52, the extra pick from the trade, we got Christian Watson, the wide receiver from North Dakota State. Then at 58, a few picks later, we were excited to take another very good falling offensive player and running back Breece Hall. Then at 74, we finally addressed edge with Sam Williams, came back around at 82, picked up another edge rusher in Nick Benito. So right now we've got 4 defensive players and 2 offensive players so far in this draft. Let's see, man, like all these tight ends went, like every single one. So,
I got to interject real quick and see. I got to see how true your Falcons fandom is, because I figured out who the second player was.
Okay.
Does the nickname Violent Hands mean anything to you?
Tyler Starr?
It's Malachi Goodman, right?
Yes, thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Malachi Goodman.
No, Tyler Starr's horsepower rating. I forgot. Yeah. All right. So we did lose all the tight ends. So, big rip there. There's maybe some interesting guys later in the draft.
We got Firkser, man. We're good.
We got Firkser. We got the Firk God. Yeah. What was that terrible thing you sent out yesterday, Dave, that was cracking me up? It was you gotta Firk it or something. I don't know. It was good.
Everybody's Firking for the weekend, man.
There you go. Yeah. That was pretty great. Yeah,
I also said Firkser is good beans, which makes no sense out of context or in context on Aaron's show yesterday. So I'm on a run here.
That's good. That's great. Yeah, I like that. All right, let's see what we got.
I'm going to steal that beans analogy from you, Dave, all the rest of the offseason.
Perfect. I'm glad that was inspiring. I hoped it was.
All right, so top of the board, punt god. Also got linebacker Jesse Lukita from Penn State. Alec Lindstrom, the Boston College center, is still there. There's some running backs, but we're not going to take running backs. We don't need them. We got Breece Hall and like a bunch of other veterans. Josh Jobe from Alabama. Let's see. We got Zion McCollum, who's interesting at corner. Just absolute testing legend. Alec Pierce, the wide receiver from Cincinnati, who I like a lot. Could be another guy to add to the receiving core. So that could be an interesting one. Let's see. Dameon Pierce is here. I mean, I just love Dameon Pierce, but we did already get Breece Hall. Justin Schaefer.
I also want to say,
yeah, go for it.
I am a huge Brian Robinson fan, and I don't really care what the rest of the Falcons draft is. If we get Brian Robinson, I will be at least like 12% happy with this draft class. So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to justify with them taking Breece Hall.
No, I get it in this exercise. I just wanted to make that
clear
for everybody. When we get to day 2 or day 3 of the draft, I may hate all the picks that they had up to that point, but if we get Brian Robinson, I'll be like, okay,
we're all good.
Forgive you so much. Yeah,
all is forgiven as long as Brian Robinson gets in there. Yeah, I mean, I think Alec Lindstrom is interesting. I know someone in the chat was asking about Cam Jurgens. He is in there. Let's see what else is going on here. Nothing great at tackle that I'm super interested in at this point. Yeah, I mean, I would consider Lindstrom. I think the story of reuniting those two is always fun. It would make center like very, very crowded, because Lindstrom's the center. But
did he play some guard?
I think he has played guard.
When Zion was playing left tackle for them, I thought he played some guard for them.
I believe he has played some guard. I think at the NFL level, he's probably a center. And that does make it interesting because then the Falcons have like 3 centers on the roster, which seems like it's unlikely. So one of those guys, we did see, what's his name, who got drafted last year? Dahlman. Dahlman played some guard, so it's like they could view Dahlman as a potential guard. Hennessy has played some guard in the past. So, that they could find a way to make that work. I like Alec Pierce. He'd probably be at the top of my list. Zion McCollum is another guy who I think makes sense because of, I think with Casey Hayward here and AJ Terrell and Isaiah Oliver, this is a group of corners that's ready to go. So taking a developmental guy that could sit for a year or two behind these established players, maybe take on a larger role in the future, has a high ceiling, that could make a lot of sense for them. Let's see. Yeah, there's not too much at safety that really jumps out here. We could go punt god here in the 4th. We could just every draft we could just take him 1 pick earlier because like in our mock we took him with like pick 190 or whatever, and then in my mock draft the next week I took him at pick 151. Then this mock we could take him at pick 114. Then next week I'll take him at like the 3rd round pick, and then like by the time we get to the draft he'll be the selection at 8. But
And then we'll
Yeah.
have to move up to get him.
I do want to see what the comments look like where they're like, "Oh, I love this pick, I love that pick, I love it." A punter, what in round 4?
Rabble.
I kind of want to see
Yeah.
that.
Just
Yeah.
like we've nailed like, props to us. We've nailed like every pick up to this point. We should just throw in the punter just to like make sure people are paying attention, Yeah. Ariza is really good, but the 4th round is rich for sure. Let's see. Yeah,
I honestly don't have a preference here.
Okay.
For me, it's just like I feel like we've accomplished everything. Most of what we needed
could
to
just
accomplish
sip Mai
in this draft,
Tais
so
now.
it's all great.
Yeah.
It's just all gravy at this point.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm picking probably between like Alec Pierce or Zion McCollum. I like both those guys a lot. So cornerback or wide receiver, Evan?
Well, I was going to say Lindstrom.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're team Lindstrom. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, just mainly because we haven't added. I don't think we've added anybody to the offensive line, right?
No, we haven't.
So
I tend to think they would like.
I think the marketing they would love to have to be able to just talk about the Lindstrom brothers, like
Yeah.
all the time. So
Right.
but no, I mean, I like your Alec Pierce would be insanely interesting. McCollum too, adding to that corner depth. But yeah, I don't think between the 3 there's really a wrong pick. As much as I would love to get the punt god, maybe just because he's at the top doesn't mean he's like gonna go. Maybe he'll be around for the next pick. If he's here for the next pick, I'm like running to get him though.
I will. I think the way they're mock simulating, I don't think punter is a need for anybody. So
right.
There's a pretty much
a
0% chance that he'll get picked unless it's just one of those random errors in their code or something like that. And the last thing I'll say is we haven't taken anybody from Cincinnati, right? So
so maybe we have to. Yeah,
we might need to take Alec Pierce here just so
I'm
we
going
can
to
get our one Bearcat
here. Yeah, like I think they went to Cincinnati for somebody. Right?
They did.
So
and
it's Pierce, and this is working out just the way we want it to.
Yes, exactly. Put on the
me,
sunglasses. Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that receiving core, today, even if you assume Patterson's going to play there plenty and Pitts is going to line up out wide, they need help. They need long-term options. So I'd go get Pierce.
Yeah. All right. We'll do Pierce. Dave breaks the tie. So we double dip at wide receiver and at edge, which I think actually the 2 most likely positions they would double dip at. So, predictively, I think both of those are very, very, very interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think Pierce. I know someone in the chat's like, "Oh, Pierce isn't going to be there." It's like, I think that there's going to be players that fall, particularly at wide receiver, because this is a super deep wide receiver class. So like, teams are going to value these guys differently depending on what happens. So we could see some weird guys fall. It happens every year, especially at wide receiver. Generally, guys are available in sort of unexpected places. All right, let's see what we got here at 151. Just 2 more picks, folks, mercifully. Let's see what we're looking at. All right, we got the punt god, always available. Maybe because of the programming, according to Aaron, but we're just gonna pretend that we could have our whatever we want, and he's just gonna be available there. Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati at corner. That's a position the Falcons haven't addressed yet. Let's see. In terms of offensive line, Cam Jurgens from Nebraska. That's a player I like. Again, probably a center. So it's like we're getting a crowded center room here. Just like last time, Brian Cook is still here from Cincinnati. I think Aaron and I believe he's probably going to go higher than this, but that's another guy that I would definitely consider. Thayer Munford and Lecitus Smith are other offensive linemen. JT Woods, the Baylor safety. Let's see. Yeah, those are probably sort of the guys that I'm leaning towards. Anyone else terribly intriguing here?
I will throw this name out there. I saw his name up, Ioma Awuzurike.
Oh yeah,
I know whoever was on the Falcons staff coached him at the Shrine game.
Oh.
And he has like ridiculous length. He's got like a 85-inch wingspan or something like that. So he's even longer than Taquan Graham and Ade Ogundeji and Kyle Pitts. So like, I know we already got Devontae Wyatt, but I feel like, continue to stack that front seven, given how bad it was, makes a lot of sense. So in terms of just predictive, he's a player that, should they not necessarily address their interior D line early in the draft, it would make sense to, go with him here. But I just saw his name pop up, and he's a guy that I certainly think will be on the radar.
Yeah, no, I like that, honestly. Like, in terms of like actual 3-4 defensive ends, they don't necessarily have like a lot of guys like that. I think he's certainly someone that could play 5 tech for you. That could be more of a 3-4 defensive end. He looks like he has tremendous size, like 6'6", 320. I haven't watched any of his tape, but I mean, if there's the Falcons connection there, and the size obviously looks good, that's as good of an excuse as any, I think, to draft someone at pick 151. So, does anybody else have strong takes about who the Falcons take at pick 151? Let's just get that out of the way first.
No, if the day that I do will be a dark day for me, probably. But
we're definitely going to get somebody that's like, oh yeah, no, I'm so upset that you took the punt god at pick 151.
So that's what I want.
It's like there's a level of investment here, and like there have been years certainly where this late in the draft I was like, they got to get this guy who they never got. But this is not one of those years for me. So I will go with the superior wisdom of you gentlemen.
Yeah. I like it. That's the guy I haven't drafted before. I haven't watched his tape, but this gives me an excuse to actually like watch a little bit of him so I can do a short write up on him. But
I thought he played pretty well against Trevor Penning when they played Northern Iowa this past year.
Okay, all right, let's do it. That's pick I haven't heard before. This is going to continue the spiciness of this mock with these guys that maybe some fans haven't seen. I like to. That's part of the fun of these exercises. You get to hear a little bit about these guys that maybe you haven't looked at before. When you see some, especially late in the draft, there's going to be such a wide range of potential players available. All right, Falcons got one more pick because we traded away 213 mercifully. Thank God we don't have to make it 213.
And we can get the punt god, even if people will say he's not going to be here. One of these punters, either him, Stout, and Camarda, is going to be here. And if TDN had all three on their draft board, we'd be able to land one of them. So whether it's Ariza or any of these guys, we should be able to get a good punter at this spot, regardless.
Yeah, I think Ariza, if he's still around here, makes a ton of sense. At tight end, there's guys I think that are intriguing at this spot, like Charlie Kolar, Daniel Bellinger are guys that I would consider here. But we could also just take the punt god, just because he's the punt god. And it just
that's
needs
a good
to happen.
enough reason. I mean,
we gotta make Evan happy, right?
Yeah.
Is there? I don't think I see tight end god or center god.
I don't see anyone labeled god. Yeah.
I see punter god. So
yeah, punt god. That's a pretty strong endorsement, I think.
Right.
Look, he's ranked player 100 on the board. Okay, so like this is tremendous value. So yeah, we'll take the punt god here.
Well, and if he's your punter for the next decade,
right?
That's great.
Great value. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Dave. I think I cut you off.
No. I was just gonna say that I saw somebody just say in the comments that he could be another Taysom Hill option too. So why don't we try that?
There you go. Exactly.
Let's Franks and the punt god out there.
There you go. Why not? We'll do it. Let's do it.
I also
like
the realism of us trading away 213 because obviously this team does not want to make those picks that late.
Hell no. I certainly don't want to make that pick.
He had it was like 51 point something yards per attempt per punt last year, which but in the NFL would have been I think second.
Yeah.
I know it's a different, it's college to the pros, but for punters it's not really like that big of a switch, Maybe the formation's slightly different, but that's a leg.
Yeah, no, he's very talented punter, no doubt about that. Length, hang time, accuracy, he's got it all. There are other good punters. Like I know Georgia fans are big fans of Camarda. Who is the other guy? Stout. Is he the Penn State punter? Stout?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good too. He is good. So like, this is a good class to need a punter, and that's probably why they didn't re-sign Morstead. So.
Yeah. Much to my chagrin.
Yeah, I know. I was down to re-sign Morrissey. He did a great job, but I guess they're just trying to save money at the positions where like you can't really save much money. Like the difference between the most expensive player at long snapper and the most expensive and like the least expensive player at long snapper is like $1 million total. And like punter is like the highest paid punter makes like $4 million a year and the minimum is like $800K. So like at most you're saving like $3 million. But hey, you know, when you can save money, you just have to do it. So
there you go.
All right, so let's do a quick pick recap here. First of all, for those that missed the very beginning of the show, we had the Falcons trade down from pick 8 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, sending pick 8 and a pot sweetener in pick 213 to Pittsburgh in exchange for pick 20, pick 52, which is their second rounder, and a 2023 first rounder. So the Falcons get an extra first rounder next year that obviously we couldn't make in this mock simulation. Please don't ask me to make 2023 mock drafts anytime soon because it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So don't even bark up that tree. But with those extra picks, we went in and still got a great player at 20 in Georgia defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt. Tremendous interior pass rusher, run defender extraordinaire. Double dipped on the Dogs with Nakobe Dean falling to 43, the linebacker, tremendous value there. And it's something that could happen. You know, it's one of those things that maybe isn't going to happen, but it's possible. And I think it's within the realm of possibility to the point where I would make this pick. The same thing with Christian Watson falling to 52. Again, his stock seems to be all over the place. Some people think he's a late first rounder. Some people think he's like a mid to late second rounder. If he's still there at 52, I think that's a slam dunk pick for the Falcons. They should absolutely cash in on, which they do. At 58, we took arguably RB1 with Breece Hall to give the Falcons a workhorse for what's likely to be a ground and pound attack with Marcus Mariota under center. Then in the next two picks, 74 and 82, we double dipped on edge rushers, getting Sam Williams from Ole Miss and Nick Benito from Oklahoma. Get a little bit of thunder and lightning going there at the edge rotation. Then at 114, our fourth rounder, we came and double dipped at wide receiver, getting Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, another big dynamic guy on the outside. At pick 151 in the fifth round, we took Ioma Owuzarike, the 3-4 defensive end, interior defensive lineman from Iowa State, who apparently had some connection to the Falcons. I think you said their defensive line coach worked with them in the past.
Yeah. At the Shrine game when they had the different assistant coaches from all 32 teams, they were coaching whatever team's D-line, whoever, I can't remember which coach it was, but
Okay, yeah, so that's as good a reason as any to take a player at 150. Then at 190, we took the punt god, Matt Ariza, at 190. And if you have a problem with the punter at pick 190, you know, you got to find something better to do with your time. Because Matt, you know, if you could find a player that's going to start more games than Matt Ariza at pick 190, you know, you should be working in the NFL. So clearly, because I think that's almost a 0% chance of happening. Because you know, Matt Ariza is probably going to start 16 games this year, and that's probably more than like 95% of sixth rounders selected in the NFL draft. So, hey, not a bad haul. What do you guys think of that haul for the Falcons?
I like it. I already see the. Oh, sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, you know, I like it a lot. I know some folks are going to comment on the lack of an offensive lineman, period. And I totally get that, but I think it's a great haul. Obviously, you're putting off your quarterback decision until next year, which I'm on record saying I don't know if they'll do that, but I think this is kind of the ideal scenario if you're going to do so. And I guess that we are just going to talk ourselves into Jalen Mayfield and Matt Hennessy as long-term solutions. So get ready for that.
The Falcons are certainly going to try to talk us into that. So I guess we're just going along with the company line that Jalen Mayfield is somehow going to turn into a competent starter. And if you can believe that, then you could probably, you know, justify passing on offensive line. But the problem is, you know, can we believe that? And I don't know. I don't know about all that. But good haul, in my opinion. Aaron, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously the offensive line still stinks, but I am more than willing to compensate for it by knowing that we have the ammunition that if we don't suck enough to get one of these top quarterbacks at the top of the draft, we have that extra first round pick that we can maybe use to sweeten the pot for a potential trade up and get our franchise quarterback next year. Fingers crossed for CJ Stroud. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are Bryce Young fans. We'll figure all that stuff out over the next 6 months in this scenario where, as Dave put it, I do think it's very likely that they will take a quarterback in this year's draft class, and we'll see sort of how high they take that guy. But in this scenario where the Falcons do what I think a lot of folks think is the smarter move and wait till next year, trading back, getting that future first round pick makes a ton of sense. And even though the offensive line stinks, I really do feel like we came away really strengthening the defensive front and that front seven, getting Nakobe Dean, getting Devontae White, getting 2 edge rushers, getting Awuzie late in the draft, and really making that kind of a foundation for what could be actually a good front seven in Atlanta, which we haven't seen in a long time. So I'm really happy with this draft.
Yeah. I mean, you spend that many damn picks on it. Like, at least some of these guys have to be good, you would think. Like, if every one of these guys busts, these guys are totally out of here in like a year. Like, if none of these guys look good, it's like, wow. Just wow. But I think it's a very good foundation. I think this really shows a commitment to improving the defensive trenches. We didn't get to address the offensive trenches. They've made a lot more moves on the offensive line, mostly at tackle, it seems, but like they've made a lot of free agent moves on the offensive line, and maybe none of them really move the needle in like a super big way, but they haven't made as many moves on the defensive line. So in the draft, it makes sense. Like they take 2 interior guys, 2 edge guys, and a linebacker, and then we just sort it out. And there's no argument. Like, even though, none of these guys is likely to be these edge rushers, they're probably not going to be like 10, 15 sack a year guys. Like, these are both guys that can probably have, hopefully, like Lorenzo Carter, like sort of impact, maybe 6 to 8 sacks a year. And if you have 3 edge rushers that can all get 8 sacks a year, you already have more sacks than the Falcons had last year. So, like maybe sometimes you got to walk before you can run. So, that maybe next year we come back, we get our quarterback and then we start rebuilding, maybe with all this cap space, we go out and sign, some 12 sack a year guy that's actually good instead of Dante Fowler. But, that's a future fever dream and not the current, situation we're in. But I like it. I think it's a good draft. I enjoyed breaking it down with all you guys. Before we take off, I do have some tips to read from Noah. Don't worry, Noah, I saw him. I just wanted to get through the draft because it's quite long, and we appreciate everyone for hanging out with us, and I appreciate all you guys for sticking around and conducting this very lengthy hour and 30-minute long mock draft because it's a marathon, not a sprint. But yeah, guys, like and subscribe. Like I said, check out the Patreon if you haven't already. It's patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. And let me get to these tips real quick from Noah Cook. Thank you so much, Noah. First off, at the $3, Noah says, hope you guys are doing well. Doing good, Noah. Getting hyped for the draft. Can't get here soon enough. The takes are getting out of hand, but that's just always what happens at this time of year. Interested to see how the Dirty Titans, aka the Falcons, will do this season. Seriously, need some off-season variety here. They have certainly signed a lot of ex-Bears. I think I would call them the Dirty Bears now as opposed to the Dirty Titans. I think there's more ex-Bears here. But, hey, like I said on Twitter, when you're trying to convince guys to come to a rebuild for what's probably close to veteran minimum compensation, it helps if you know them. You're like, oh yeah, you know me. Like, we're going to get you in a familiar scheme. You're just going to come here, rehabilitate your career a little bit, get a chance to start. We're not going to pay you a lot, but, what do you say? And it's like, if you don't know these guys at all, they're just going to hang up the phone on you. And if at least you have some connection to them, they might hear you out. So those relationships are vital for getting these guys in here on cheap deals, which is apparently the biggest priority for this front office in 2022. All right. Noah's other tip with the $3 again. Thanks, Noah. Says, if we can get either Jermaine Johnson or Garrett Wilson, I'll be happy. I know I'm a big fan of Jermaine. I am. So I would be really happy with Jermaine at 8 if they end up sticking there. I'm not the biggest fan of Garrett Wilson. I know Aaron is very much in agreement with that. So Aaron, why don't you just take a minute, let people know why you aren't as high on Garrett Wilson as the consensus.
Yeah, let me say, Garrett Wilson is a first-round receiver. Let me make that clear.
Preface it with that, yes.
Yeah, I think there are like 6 guys that would get first-round grades from me, maybe 7. I'm on the fence with Christian Watson at this point in terms of first-round grades. But they're all kind of like lower half of the first round for me, with the exception of maybe Jameson, or let me say a healthy Jameson Williams. But like, my thing with Garrett Wilson is like, he's a smaller wide receiver that is really good after the catch, will make some highlight reel grabs. His highlight reel is probably the best in this draft class, but I can't get there with him because I feel like he plays, even though he makes these sort of, above the rim sort of, jumping over cornerback type of catches. I still think at the end of the day, when he gets to the NFL and he's facing, more physical corners, he's going to get pushed around a lot more. And I feel like he's going to be more of a slot receiver than anything. And I think he can be valuable in that role and be a productive player for some football team, and potentially, turn into a wide receiver 1 if he goes to the right team and that knows how to unlock him. But I just think some of these other receivers can bring a little bit more, particularly in terms of outside threats. And, I feel like if you're just going to get a quote unquote slot only receiver, I feel like Jahan Dotson probably does a lot of the same things that Garrett Wilson does, and does them a little bit better, in my opinion, than Wilson does. And so I like Dotson a little bit more. So it's kind of close between, where I kind of feel like wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 6 are. That's where I have Dotson as 3 and Garrett Wilson as 6. But I don't necessarily see him as this clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in this draft class in my eyes.
Yeah. So if the Falcons were going to take a wide receiver at 8, is it Drake London, or are you leaning somewhere else with that pick? Like, we don't have a choice. They have to take a wide receiver at 8. They've been, delivered the edict from Goodell himself. They must take a receiver. Is it Drake London for you there?
Yes.
Unmute.
We got you back. We got you back. Yeah.
It is Drake London for me. Yeah.
I just think that makes the most sense from the Arthur Smith angle. I think he's the one that's most likely to be that sort of prototypical X. I think he's, I think if he didn't miss the end of the season, I think he's probably someone who's talked about more as the wide receiver 1. But, sneak peek to next week's show, Thor Nystrom is going to be joining us from NBC Sports. I met Thor at the Senior Bowl. He's a fun guy. He's also a believer in the Drake London gospel, Drake London wide receiver 1 gospel. So I'm just going to ask him about London too. But yeah, I've sort of continued to shift towards London as my top receiver. And I still think 8 is early for him. Like I think I would just have a hard time getting a receiver in my top 10 players in this draft. There's going to be maybe 2, maybe 3 in the top 20 receivers for me, or the top 20, players, but in the top 10, it's just that I just have a hard time getting that done. So I think a receiver at 8 would be something I would not support, but if they had to do it, it's Drake London for me. And Dave, are you saying that's sort of where you'd go as well? Did we lose Dave again?
No, I just couldn't find my mute button, which I do like 3 times.
Yeah.
So, no, I was just chiming in to say, yes, I agree with that, honestly.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, I've already taken way too much of you guys' time, and I appreciate everyone for sticking through this very long mock draft and the rare Dave Wednesday appearance. Dave is tremendous with coming on the Q&As, but we can't always get him on Wednesday. So first of all, wanted to thank Dave for making time tonight to come on the show. He is Dave Choate at the Falcoholic himself. Dave, anything you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to say before we sign off tonight?
Just stay tuned for more Anthony Firkser puns, I guess. We'll keep cooking them up. And also, thanks to everybody for tuning in. I thought it was a fun mock draft, and definitely stay locked on to the Falcoholic and Locked On Falcons, since I said locked on.
I was like, oh, wow, we're getting a Locked On plug already. Okay, yeah.
Brand synergy here. For all the draft coverage, because we're excited about it. It's a hugely potentially transformational class. We don't know what direction they're going in, so we'll have a lot of pre-draft coverage and looking forward to covering it.
Yep. We'll have a lot of current draft coverage as well, because we'll be doing the draft party again this year. I'll have official dates and times on that coming out soon. We're going to start working on the guest list for that. Always a lot of fun. We'll be live all 3 nights of the draft here hanging out. So definitely look forward to that, guys. And again, thanks to Dave. Also with us tonight, we have Aaron Freeman at Falc Fans. As Dave mentioned, host of the Locked On Falcons podcast. Your daily Falcons podcast. I probably could do the whole intro at this point, but I'll let Aaron do that. So, Aaron, anything you'd like to plug, including the Locked On Falcons podcast?
Yeah, Locked On Falcons has dropped another episode over on the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel. So after you guys are done with that, go head on over there, check that out. Talk with Jarvis Davis to talk a little bit about whether the Falcons should go trenches versus quarterback in this draft and some of the players that he really likes. And he's a big fan of Christian Watson. He's a big fan of Jermaine Johnson. And he is also a big fan of George Pickens, much to my chagrin. But go check that out. I think tomorrow's episode, or should I say Friday's episode of Locked On Falcons will be edge rushers with John Ledyard of Pewter Report. I think that's the plan right now. So we'll probably go a little bit deeper on some of these edges and see if, Nick Bonito and the Sam Williams combination, passes the smell test for John Ledyard, and whether or not he's going to be worried about Tristan Wirfs blocking those guys in the years to come. So that's what you can do on Locked On Falcons in the coming days. And of course, if you want to get mad at my wide receiver rankings or anything else on Twitter, of course, you guys can find me at FalcFans and not understand my snarkiness and my negativity. So
yes. Why are you such a hater, Aaron? Do you even enjoy this team? You're like, what do you even do here?
Like I say, Charles McDonald said something to me the other day, last week on Locked On Falcons, where someone asked him if he likes the Falcons, and he was like, "No, I don't like the Falcons. They're my favorite team, but I don't like them."
No,
that's kind of how I am with the Falcons. I don't like them at all, but I do root for them, and I'm still here, but I do not like this team at all.
It's really an abusive relationship if you think about it. But one that we sort of keep coming back to. It's like, it's just the siren's call. It's like, maybe they'll be good. And like, if they are, like, I want to be here for that. But like, also they're probably not going to be good. But like, just in case they are, I'm going to be here. So, just in case they ever do reach the pinnacle, I can say that I was here the whole time. Is it worth it? We'll see. We'll see. But, the jury's still out on that one. Also with us tonight, we have Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield. Evan, anything you're working on, anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, just go to, falcoholic.com for everything. Social media, _Falcoholic on Instagram, and then on Twitter and Facebook. We don't have TikTok yet, but Dave said he's going to work on that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm turning 30 next month, so I can't be involved with the TikToks at all. Like, that just doesn't jive with me. I can already feel myself getting annoyed with the TikToks. So, that's I'm gonna be too old for that. But yeah, maybe someone will do some Falcons TikToks. I'm sure someone's exploring that content area. But Evan also helped arrange an interview with another draft prospect that will be happening soon. Houston's I need to ask him his name so I don't butcher it, but I think it's like David Anena or something like that. The Houston edge rusher who the Falcons did some extensive work with at his pro day. So I'll be talking with him on Friday, so you guys can look for that one too. But yeah, thanks again for helping set that up, Evan, and for all the work on the Instagram, guys. It's the _Falcoholic on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the Falcoholic. Some guys, the Falcoholic.
Wow. Yeah, we got to do something about that. Somebody harass this guy until he gives up the name.
I think he's a fan of the site because he follows.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's nice. Do us a solid, buddy. So give us the title, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But yeah,
it's kind of like you guys probably know this story back and front, but we couldn't get Falcoholic.com instead of the Falcoholic because there's a Swedish developer. And his website, falcoholic.com, is still up to this day. It's a relic of a bygone era. You should check it out.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe that can be our backup. If this site ever falls through, we can go find this Swedish guy. We'll make him a competitive offer for falcoholic.com, and we'll run our counter Falcoholic site And we'll have to make people figure out which Falcoholic is the true Falcoholic, because they'll probably look identical, in every way, and it's just going to be
one will be Swedish, but
Yes.
other than that, yeah.
Other than the Swedish, but that's an untapped audience, I think. Yeah.
Or you could just forget the Falcons and just get into Swedish real estate. That might be a pretty good business, right?
I think so. I
I
think.
think it would be, yeah. We could, let's take this offline. I have,
Yeah. Let's workshop
I have
this.
some ideas here. Yeah.
Yeah, let's workshop this. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah, Swedish real estate I think is a booming market. The Falcons maybe not so much booming at this point, so we might need to all jointly consider switching our efforts here to Swedish real estate. But we'll save that for the Swedish real estate pod coming to you in June. But guys, again, really appreciate everyone for hanging out with us tonight. I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic. Kevin, like I said, the podcast episodes will be returning at some point. I promise. We are working on that. DW ran it really well for a long time, so we're working on getting that jump started again in his absence, as just plain DW now. So I hope that he's doing well. But we will be sending you guys some more of that stuff. We will have more shows. We might do one more live mock, the episode before the draft, just because that seems to be tradition, and you guys seem to really like it. And that one might be like our final, we're actually picking for the Falcons officially mock. But like I said, next week we're going to have Thor Nystrom on. We're going to talk draft prospects. And we're almost there. There's really only a couple more shows until the draft. So exciting stuff.
Weeks?
Yeah, I think it's
tomorrow 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, 2 more shows, and then it'll be draft time. So, yeah, guys, really appreciate you. Like I said, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. We will see you next time on the Falcoholic Live next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, guys, for myself, for Dave the Falcoholic, for Aaron Locked On, Falcons Freeman, and for Evan, Director of Guest Personnel, Birchfield, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.